Hello Jags, Fahad here. Spirit Aerosystems, symbol SPR. It will be reporting earnings on Wednesday, May 1st, before market opens. If you look at SPR option chain, you will see there is 5,000 open interest in July 80 puts, with stock currently trading around $88 per share. All 5,000 of these puts were bought to open on March 28th for $1.95 offer, almost $1 million bearish bet, or a pretty good significant size hedge. Now, I wanted to provide some color around this earnings because this quarter that's coming up may not itself be such an important quarter. It's the guidance. Here's something interesting. Most important key point that you need to remember. 54% of Spirit Aerosystems' entire sales are dependent on this one plane, 737 MAX, which is currently grounded all over the world. Boeing on April 5th cut its production guidance of Boeing 737 MAX from 52 units per month to 42 units per month. And immediately after that, several analysts came out. They updated their projections forecast and they cut the street expectations, the EPS expectations for fiscal year 2019 for Boeing down from $20 to only $11.80 for Boeing. And yet, if you look at Spirit Aerosystems, which will be reporting earnings on May 1st before market opens, Spirit Aerosystems EPS estimate before the Ethiopian crash was $7.32 on the street for the full year, and now it's still $7.32 on the street. They have not moved at all. They're still about the same. And this is where I believe the risk comes into the stock. Here's what's going on. On April 5th, both companies, Boeing and Spirit System, released a press release came out in which both of them stated exactly the same thing. While Boeing cut its full production down from 52 to 42, Spirit Aerosystems did not adjust its production at all. In fact, there's an agreement in place, according to an understanding between both companies. There's an agreement in place that Spirit Aerosystems, that makes the fuselage, the propulsion systems, as well as the wing systems for 737 MAX, they will continue to be made for Boeing at the same rate as if Boeing was producing 52 planes per month, not 42 planes per month, which is the updated guidance. The reason is that Boeing is essentially counting on the FAA to recertify these planes after the software glitch has been completed, and as a result, worldwide the plane will be ungrounded again, it will start flying again, and everything will go back to normal. Will it go back to normal, or this is a much larger issue that you and I can basically handle or think about at this point? Watch this few-minute clip from Vox a couple days ago.
To compete with Airbus, Boeing's obvious move was to upgrade the engine on their single-aisle plane, the 737. But there is one issue. Here's a sketch of the 737 next to the Airbus A320. Notice how the 737 is lower to the ground than the A320. This meant Airbus could slide a new engine under the wing of their A320, but there wasn't enough room under the wing of the Boeing 737. But a few months later, Boeing's product development head had big news. He said, "We figured out a way to get a big enough engine under the wing." Their solution was to move up the engine on the wing so that it would be slightly higher, and it would fit on their 737s. Here's a promotional video of that updated 737 in the air. You can actually see that the top of the engine is above the wing. Boeing called this model the 737 MAX. And just like Airbus with the A320, Boeing said that their new plane was so similar to its predecessor that pilots would only need minimal additional training. The 737 MAX became the hottest selling plane on the market. And it helped Boeing keep up with Airbus. Except moving the engine up on the 737 had a side effect. When the 737 MAX was in full thrust, like during takeoff, the nose tended to point too far upward, which could lead to a stall. This was a problem because these planes were supposed to behave exactly like the old ones. So Boeing came up with a workaround. Instead of re-engineering the planes, they installed software that automatically pushed the nose downward if the pilot flew the plane at too high of an angle. They called it the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS.
Is this really just a software fix, or is this actually a problem with the actual plane design from its grounds up? Basically, could you simply fix the software that doesn't cause the plane with the weight of the engine to nosedive? Or is it really that you have to actually redo all the wings and lower the position of the engine below its body a little bit, so basically it stops nosediving? I do not know yet. This is where the trouble comes in. I think a lot of people on the street at this particular point are counting on simple technical software fix for this plane to basically be just sufficient for the airlines to resume their orders. But this video is highlighting a very critical, important malfunction actually in the design of the plane itself. So I do not know how long this plane will remain grounded. What I can tell you is this chart. Take a look at this chart, and this shows how many orders are stacked up for delivery based on this schedule for the current year 2019 and then going forward from here. For fiscal year 2019, 500 Boeing 737 MAX are supposed to be delivered, rising to 650 next year and then go on and so on and so on. Is this going to happen, or these airliners will not come back to the market? I can tell you this, while it's difficult to say exactly when they will return, but here are a few pieces of tidbits of news that is worth pointing out. Here is Norwegian Air Shuttle providing an update on April 24th, which was just last week, in which they said, based on ongoing discussion, the company has reached an agreement that it will postpone the delivery of 14 737 MAX that were originally due for delivery in 2020. Here is Garuda Indonesia Airline. And same thing, this one came out on April 24th. According to this press release, Indonesia is replacing the orders for 49 Boeing 737 MAX 8. Here is Air Canada. This one also came out on April 25th, last week, and they said Air Canada has now removed 737 MAX flying from its schedule until at least August 1st, 2019. And here is Router's article. This one also came out last week, and they said Boeing has removed 210 aircraft from its order backlog. A very large order was removed from company's backlog. They did not disclose who this party was, but the speculation is that this was India's Jet Airways, which also at the same time halted operations after lenders rejected a plea for emergency funds. I just basically, in just the last couple of days, I just counted at least 4 airliners around the world that have canceled their orders with Boeing. And here we are to believe that a simple software fix will basically fix all the problems and these planes will start flying again. Here's what I'm trying to get at. The consensus for Boeing has already come down a lot on the street. Ever since, particularly on April 4th, when they cut their monthly production figures. But the supplier, particularly Spirit Aerosystems, that gets 54% of its revenues just from 737 MAX, they have not seen any earnings cut at all. Reason is that Boeing and SPR have an understanding to continue to provide the supply, the components, in expectation that these planes will be ungrounded again in the second half. I do not know when they will be ungrounded. 500 deliveries are expected this year. Are they going to happen? 650 deliveries are expected next year. Are they going to happen, or this story will continue on for the next whole year? So I think going into SPR earnings report on May 1st, the risk is not the first quarter. The risk is potentially not even the second quarter. The risk is potentially in 3 months from now, 4 months from now, whether the second half guidance will be sharply cut when the realization sets in that these planes are still grounded. They're not flying. At some point, Boeing cannot continue to build these planes when nobody's buying and then just stack them up in a big giant lot in Wichita plant and say, you know, we're just going to basically hold this large amount of inventory. They have to get paid on that inventory, otherwise cash drains begin. So at some point, in my opinion, Boeing will have to basically have a directive down to each supplier level and start telling suppliers, you have to cut production. That's when the trouble can begin for a company like Spirit Aerosystems. So this is not necessarily a view on the earnings report that's coming out on May 1st before market opens, with large bears sitting in July 80 puts. But I think in 3 months from now, unless these planes are flying again, you will see drastic earnings cut from Spirit Aerosystems in about 3 months or 6 months from now. We'll talk about it when that moment comes. That's it from me. See you next time.